Done.
Thank you.
Can we please play the Nigerian Dream again? Then you play the national anthem, then we start by start. Thank you.
The dream is to have a prosperous nation and a prosperous people who can be anything that they want to be within the confines of their ability. We need to have a Nigerian dream that will unite us instead of having separate interests that divide us. Yes, we may be culturally different and all that, but what is the Nigerian dream? A strong Nigeria where everybody has a voice, where everybody's voice is heard, where everybody can aspire to greatness and contribute their own quota to the realm of Nigeria, where we can be proud Nigerians and say we're men of integrity and we're men of stature and strength. That should be the Nigerian dream, a prosperous Nigeria with prosperous individuals who can aspire to become anything without knowing anybody by the force of their and the tenacity of their competence and their capabilities, where the nation provides an even playing field for everybody to contribute their own quota to the development of Nigeria and the African continent. That should be the Nigerian dream, which we all should probably pursue. And that might put an end to a lot of the little fracases that we're having amongst ourselves and trying to eat up and destroy ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for this very long session and for staying in tune. I'm beginning to think we may need to repeat it at some stage where we can have another conversation about Nigeria and then take as many of the questions that people want to throw at us as is available.
Now let's leave it national.
Very welcome, very warm welcome to today's edition of the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series, and our discourse. My name is Itwa Igodalo. and I'm happy to be here today to discuss what I would like to consider is a very, very important and extremely critical conversation. Our guest today is not just an immigration attorney, she's a compassionate advocate and ally of her clients, guiding them through the complexities of the immigration system with empathy and understanding. She is driven by her own immigration journey from Nigeria to the United States, and she's pursued a career in immigration law to help others undergo the process with less fear and anxiety. Her commitment to her clients goes beyond legal representation. She strives to make them feel like family throughout the entire process. She was educated at the University of Law of Pace University, School of Law, University of Ibadan, 1988, admissions into the State of Jersey Bar, State of New York Bar, United States District Court for the District of New Jersey, 1995. Please welcome with me Mrs. Ifeoma Odunlami. Ifeoma Kedu.
Good morning, Pastor Igodalo. Nice to meet you. Pastor
Good
Itwa.
morning, Ifeoma. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for accepting. And I want to thank Jumoke for putting it together. You're in New Jersey, I presume.
Yes, I'm in New Jersey, yes.
Can I ask which Odunlami you are married to?
The from Ijebu Ishoyin.
Okay. Because I grew up with some Odunlamis. Their father was a judge in Ogun State or Western Nigeria at a certain time.
No, that's not the Odunlami. That's not the Odunlami. I've heard about that Odunlami, but that we're not from that. We're not the Lagosian Odunlamis. We're from Ijebu.
Ijebu, yeah. They're all Ogun State also, but I think they're Egba.
Egba, yeah.
Also. Yeah. You tell us, you grew up in Ibadan or you grew up in Lagos?
I grew up in Lagos.
Okay. How did you find yourself in UI?
My father went to UI, and when I graduated I went to Federal Government Girls College, Benin. And when I graduated from high school, he insisted that I had to go to University of Ibadan because that was his alma mater. So I went, and then I graduated from UI with a degree in English and Communications. And then I did my youth service 1 year, and then I came to the United States to go to law school.
Okay. At the Pace University. Where is Pace University, if I may ask?
It's in New York.
Oh, New York. So you're a New Yorker.
More or less.
New York. So good, they named it twice.
I like puff puff.
Yeah.
Moi, yep.
That's New York. I love New York. Lots of people don't like New York, but I love New York.
Yeah, I'm one of those that I don't love New York.
I love New York. I love New York. It's a real upgrade of Isaleko, so I love it.
Yeah, that's the right comparison.
Yeah, a real upgrade. New York never sleeps. The first time I went to New York, I saw young, pretty ladies. They're eating their lunch, they're walking on the road, they're moving around. Everybody in a hurry. I said, what's going on here? You don't even have time to sit down and eat lunch.
Yep.
Yeah. So, talk to us. Your country, the United States, has several executive orders and policies on immigrants. I don't know if you can give us, if you have it, a summary of those policies and what Donald Trump is really trying to achieve. We have a rough idea standing from this side, but you might have deeper in-depth. And It's interesting that you decided to do immigration law, and your bio tells us that it's your journey of immigration from Nigeria to the US that drove you in that direction. Maybe you can start by telling us what that journey was and how come it drove you in that direction, what issues or you may have had or you didn't have, and what really compelled you to put your emphasis more on immigration law.
All right. Well, so I when I came to United States, I got an F1 visa to go to university here in the US. I really wanted to study law because when you watch TV and you see what all those law shows back in the day, it felt so like, invigorating. It felt like a legal system that was very forceful and targeted to really helping people, and I really wanted to be a lawyer more than anything else. And so I was lucky that one of my uncles was a justice in the in Nigeria, and he persuaded my parents to allow me to come because I was just 20, to allow me to come here to the United States on my own to go to law school. So I graduated from law school, and one of the challenges I had, of course, was being able to get a job because you have your first year OPT, which is fine, but after that, you're supposed to have 6 years of a work permit. But you have to have an employer, and every time you go for an interview, once they know that they have to file for you, they're not really willing to give you the job because it takes a while for them to get the work permit when they're looking to hire right away. Back then, it used to take 3 months to get a work permit. So that was one of the difficulties I had. And luckily for me, I met this I met this judge who was willing to wait for me to get my papers and file for and put me into the to work for him. So I did that, and at some point I fell out of status because after 6 years, if somebody hasn't filed a immigrant petition for you, you really have nowhere to go. So I fell out of status, and I was still here, and luckily, I met my husband at that time, but I remember this, and this is what immigration does to you. It puts you in fear. I remember when I was working at this law firm and the USCIS office was like downstairs on the first floor. This is how scared I was. I would never walk in front of that store, in front of the office, because I really felt that if I walked there, somebody was looking for me to grab me. So I would walk across to the other side of the street and then walk a distance and then come back so I could go into my office. And so that fear that the clients feel when immigration does things to them, when they're either targeting them, it's a real fear. You're afraid to do things. You're afraid to go places. So anyway, I met my husband, who was in the process of getting his papers, and I was able to join him. And because of a new law that President Clinton had enacted, my period of unauthorized stay was forgiven as long as I paid $1,000, which I did. So I got my green card. But I remember the process of getting the green card. It took so long, and I had a baby. And because they hadn't made a decision on my case, I had no driver's license. I had a baby that was sick, that had just been born. I couldn't. I was afraid to take a cab because, they tell you have to have a car seat. Even just getting around to do things for the baby was just a chore. You couldn't do it. You were afraid. You were waiting for people to come pick you up because I'm very law abiding. Okay. So it didn't even occur to me that, just do what you got to do. I was just afraid. So finally, our papers came through. We got our papers, and to an extent, that just gave me peace of mind. However, the reason I started doing immigration, because I did a lot of civil litigation at the beginning, because that was a law firm that hired me, and you basically had to go where the firm, where you got an employer that could file for you. So I did a lot of civil litigation, but I was already burnt out from there because I had no purpose. It was like, why am I helping insurance companies screw people up? Because that was the only job I had. But the good thing was I got the skills I needed to be the attorney I am today. I learned how to try cases because trying cases was something we did all the time. But I focused on immigration when Trump came into power. So I really have to thank President Trump for my ability to segue into immigration. I'd done immigration, but I did other things as well. It wasn't a focus. So what happened was when President Trump came into power, I was so devastated because I knew what it was going to mean. I mean, he lived in New York. We knew what it meant. The whole anti-immigrant rhetoric made us all feel unsafe, even people with papers, even people who were citizens. And so if I, as a citizen, felt unsafe in America, I couldn't imagine what people who had no papers, how they felt. So I decided to run for office. So I joined a group for women who were trying to run for office. That was in 2016 when he became president, because I thought I had to do something. But after attending a few of those meetings, I realized that politics was just not for me. So a friend of mine and I actually met her, she was also trying to run for office. She's a lawyer as well. We said really getting serious with immigration because we figured that we could help people. We started taking a lot of pro bono cases, working for free with non-for-profit agencies and all that. And that's where my love for immigration came. And for the first time, I felt a passion, like a purpose, like this is really what I want to do. And that's how I dropped every other case I had. I basically stopped taking clients from family, from bankruptcy, and focused only on immigration. So we started my firm in, when we started taking immigration cases, it was really around COVID, around 2020. I was just me and one other person, and today we're a staff of at least 20 people. We're hiring like crazy right now because there's just so much we want to hire ahead of need because we have a lot of clients calling us, a lot of people calling us. They're all anxious. We're trying to catch up with the change. Every day is something different. The policies are changing. We're reading up, we're attending meetings with other lawyers, trying to figure out how we can step into the role that we as attorneys are called to play, which is protecting people who don't have the legal status they need. So the mission of my law firm is to assist people to get legal status so that they can live here without fear of deportation or without fear of separation from their families. That's what we've been doing, and we've been really successful in it. I mean, we had a case, one of the cases that really drove home the power of what we do was a client who was literally on the way to being deported. We basically ran around, got the judges involved, and on the day he was being deported, he was already in Newark on a bus. They were waiting for the plane to come pick him and other people up. I think he was from Ecuador. And we were able to get the order signed on time by the judge. And everybody else was deported but him. He was allowed to come back. So the work we do is we talk to people. We try to also tell them the right way to do things, because a lot of immigrants come into America. They meet people who are encouraging them to break laws, who are encouraging them to do things the wrong way that become a problem for them in the future. So a lot of what we do, when I do a lot of my posts on Instagram, on social media, is telling people that there are legal ways to get what you want. Because when you violate immigration laws, you complicate your case. But even if you violated immigration laws, there's sometimes ways to get around it because there are waivers, forgiveness that's available. Because people, knowledge is power. I think a lot of immigrants don't have the right information to help them get to where they need to get to.
Okay, so you take clients. How do you get your clients? How do you choose your clients, or your clients come to look for you by reputation?
Our clients come to look for us, and they come through referrals by other clients, referrals from attorneys. They Google us. Some people they Google, they're looking for a Black attorney. We have our clientele is mostly, we have a lot of Africans, Caribbean Americans, people from Latin America, some clients from Asia, a few from Europe. So most of them get us through, word of mouth, social media. They see my videos, or a lot of clients come through referral, because once you've helped one family member, they tell the whole community.
Okay, so are some of these thoughts and executive orders more driven by the personality of Donald Trump, or is it a Republican position and so on and so forth? Because the Democrats seem to be a bit softer and more lenient on some of these issues. What's your thinking behind this at this point in time?
So Democrats have always been more pro-immigration, even though I have to tell you that some of the most horrible laws came from Clinton. I don't know what he was thinking, but some of those laws that created what do you call it, bars. If you overstay here in the United States for more than 6 months, you have to a year, you have a 3-year bar. If you overstay in unauthorized stay for more than a year, you have a 10-year bar. That was Clinton. But typically, Democrats are more pro-immigration, and even Republicans are not. They're not as pro-immigrant as Democrats. However, Republicans understand that in the immigrant community contributes a lot to the economic welfare of the United States. I mean, it was Reagan that had the amnesty program that allowed people who had been here for a long time to automatically become green card holders. Donald Trump is a different person. I don't think that his values align with Republicans or with Democrats. His values, to me, seem to align more with white supremacy. And I think what he did was he tapped into the fear that that some Americans have of the what would I call it, he tapped into the fear that they have of white people becoming minorities in America, because, and that's why I tell people that even Roe v. Wade, what do you think that was about? Who's having abortions is not people of color, it's not Latinos, it's white women. There's been a huge reduction in white birth rate. So when he came into office, he tapped into that fear, right? And spoke it out and spoke it aloud. And he empowered people that had that agenda but couldn't come forward with it to come forward and own it. And so I don't want to say that this whole anti-immigrant sentiment is really Republican. I think it's really Donald Trump's agenda, and it's a white supremacist agenda. That's the truth, because there are other undocumented immigrants who are white. We're not seeing them being raided. People from Russia, people from Ireland, people from Eastern European, none of them are being raided. So that's, the consensus. And so a lot of the laws, that the executive orders that are targeting immigrants, are really targeting people of color.
Interesting. Interesting, because I have a theory that almost every American is actually an immigrant. And even Donald Trump himself is a second or third generation immigrant, depending on where you're looking from. I hear his father was from his grandfather was from Germany. His mother was actually from Ukraine or Poland or somewhere like that, or Scotland.
Yes, Scotland.
Scotland, and therefore it's a bit ironic that a country that has been founded largely on immigration and has excluded the original inhabitants of the land and almost turned them into persona non grata, is now beating his chest about immigration law. How come nobody's challenging that status and that foundation? Where the American Indians, and how come they're so silent and they have no voice? What's your thinking?
American Indians have been silenced for a very long time. They've pushed them out to reservations. They have no power. They don't. They really don't. So they're not going to speak up because they don't have any power. They've never had any power. That's, there's a lot of alcoholism in their reservation. There's just not much they can do. I think what I expected was for Democrats to speak up, and even Republicans, because the Republican agenda is different from Trump's agenda. But for some strange reason, there's been silence all across the board. Even the Democrats are not. I mean, there's been lawsuits and all that, but I'm not really seeing the challenge to the extent that I thought there would be. In fact, the only person I really see challenging is AOC. Then there's what's her name? The woman from Texas. A couple people, but they've largely been silent. And I think what happened with this executive orders, this has been the planning for a long time. So they hit the ground running. And although we're all confused because it's so much. And as an immigration attorney, I can tell you that everything we thought was law that was fixed, that we thought was unshakable, it's being shaken right now. For instance, birthright citizenship, that is guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. That has been challenged over the years. In fact, the last time it was challenged was over 100 years ago, and there was a Supreme Court decision that put to rest birthright citizenship. And now it's come up again. It has been stayed, that order has been stayed, right? Which means that it's not effective. But I think what they're planning is to allow it to go through the court system till it gets to the Supreme Court, where they're hoping that the Supreme Court will rule. Now, the Supreme Court is very, very conservative. If they are true constitutionalists, there's no question that birthright citizenship is a right. However, the concern is that the Supreme Court seems to just allow the President Trump do whatever he wants to do. They actually gave him, there was a Supreme Court ruling that basically said that anything he did while in office was basically he was basically protected. So we're in this twilight zone where all the things that we thought were protected are no longer protected. So we're just going to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I don't know how far you can go or think, because I've always imagined in my quiet time, how come you had birthright citizenship in the first place? What was the anchor of that law? And how come you were allowed to, if you were born in the US, to be a US citizen? What was the history behind that? Do you know?
I think the history had to do with slavery, right? It had to do with people who were slaves, children of slaves, giving them birthright to be Americans. And so that was how, and so there's still a lot of people who argue that birthright citizenship was for the children of slaves, not for anybody that came into the country. But there's case law that has settled that if you're born in the United States, unless you were born and you were not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, for instance, people that came in with diplomatic visas, they're not subject to the jurisdiction of the US. So if their children are born in the United States, they don't acquire citizenship. So we have a history of law that has put this birthright issue to rest. But it has come up again. And I know that the reason is so that it can get to the Supreme Court, because it is a federal issue, and that's where it's going to be decided.
Interesting. So what's the summary of the new immigration policies, especially as concerns Africans? Because that's really where we want to...
You want to go?
Yeah, we want to go today.
Okay, so I did a quick list of how the new executive orders will affect African countries. So number one, because of the enhanced, there's this the executive order that deals with protecting the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats. Basically, they are directing DHS and Department of State to implement stricter, enhanced vetting for visa applicants and those who are already in the country. So what that means is there's going to be a likelihood that foreign nationals who are applying for visas at U.S. consulates and embassies abroad will be put in administrative processing, which we call 221G. So their visas are likely to be denied because of more administrative processing. That, of course, is going to lead to backlogs. Now, with Nigeria, I know that they've terminated the drop box. So what that means is that if you're coming to the United States, the next interview date is going to be God knows when. I think one of my clients had told me it was, I don't remember what date, but it's probably like at least a year from now. So there are more delays in issuing visas due to administrative processing and additional security clearances, right? There's going to be travel bans. That hasn't come yet, but we're expecting that. And last time in Trump 1.0, Nigeria is considered a Muslim country. There was a ban against Muslim countries, right? So we're expecting that. That hasn't happened yet, but that could happen. Now we talk about birthright citizenship. That is being challenged by at least 24 states. And so we're waiting to see how that pans out. Now, what else? Expedited removal is something that really concerns us attorneys. So typically, if you come into the United States and you come with either a visa which has expired or you come with you come through the border, if ICE decides to deport you, they will serve you with something called a notice to appear. That notice to appear puts you before an immigration judge. So you get to go before the immigration judge and plead your case as to why you should remain in the United States. I mean, you have to have a pathway, of course. It could be asylum, it could be whatever it is. Now, with expedited removal, if you've been in the United States less than 2 years, whether you came with a visa that has expired, whether you came through the border, whether it doesn't matter, you can be put in expedited removal, which means you don't get to see a judge. They can put you in detention center. Right now, they have detention centers in every state. And for some group of people, they're sending them to Guantanamo Bay. So they can deport you expeditiously without you having to go before a judge. That's very troubling. Now, there's also this case called the Laken-Riley Act. Laken-Riley was a young woman who was killed by, I think it was an immigrant or an undocumented immigrant from Venezuela. And even though her parents asked that her death not be politicized, it has been. So this administration that cannot seem to figure out how to stop mass shootings in schools acted really fast in enacting a law that said that any immigrant that is accused of a crime, doesn't matter what the crime is, it can be shoplifting, will be deported immediately. So that, of course, violates due process because they say it doesn't even matter if it was a false accusation. So we're telling our immigrant community to be really careful, because the Laken-Riley Act, which actually got the support of some Democratic senators and congressmen, really is an affront to America's due process, which is guaranteed to everybody, whether you're documented or not, which is guaranteed to everyone who is in the United States. So as a result of the raids that have been going on, we have doing Know Your Rights webinars, seminars. I have it on my website. A lot of attorneys are talking to people on what to do when ICE accosts you in your home. And the message is you do not have to open your door to anybody unless they have a judicial warrant. And ICE typically comes with an administrative warrant. So we've taught people and we've talked to them about knowing the difference between a judicial warrant and an administrative warrant. If somebody comes to your house and knocks, the first thing you're supposed to do is tell them, what do you want? Don't open the door. If they have a warrant, they should slide it under the door. If you look at the warrant, it doesn't have your name, don't open the door. If you look at the warrant, it's not a judicial warrant with your name signed, do not open the door. If it's a judicial warrant, you have to open the door because it's the judge. So we're teaching people and we're educating people, and it's been really successful because the head of, the border czar was complaining that their raids are not as successful as they wanted it to be because people basically are being educated about what to do when ICE accosts them. We've also told people what to do when ICE accosts them in a workplace. say you're working in a restaurant, if you're in a non-public part of the restaurant, they cannot come and take you unless you're in a public area, right? In a public area, they can take you, they can ask you questions. Now, another thing people need to know is they have a right to remain silent. You do not have to give your name. You do not have to give your ethnicity or your heritage, where you're from. Does that mean that they won't take them? No, it doesn't mean that. But we tell people, don't give them information that allows them to do their work. Let them look for that information. All they need to say is, I would prefer to speak to you with an attorney present. Now, we're giving people something called red cards because we know immigrants are really scared of even speaking. So all they have to do is give that card to the officer, and that establishes that they're not going to speak. And if they speak, they will speak through an attorney. So the Know Your Rights is something that we have talked about. Now, the other thing that is impacting other African countries, not so much Nigeria, is TPS, Temporary Protected Status. That is a designation that allows people who are already in the United States, who are from certain countries. Cameroon has TPS, and I think Sudan and some other countries. Ukraine had TPS, Haiti has TPS, all those countries. It allows them to stay in the United States because their country is experiencing some turmoil. It could be environmental disasters, it could be war, it could be something. And it allows them to stay in the United States and work in a protected status, which means they cannot be deported. Now, we expect that TPS is going to be removed. It has also, the Biden administration had extended TPS for certain countries before Trump came into office. As soon as Trump came into the office, he removed that extension, and I think that was Venezuela, Cuba, and maybe a couple other countries. The humanitarian parole, which allowed people who qualified, either they've been in the United States for 10 years, married to a U.S. citizen as pursuant to a certain time. Of course, that was already gone. So a lot of the protections that were given to asylum holders, for instance, if you come in through the border, you could come in and apply for asylum within the United States. That is no longer the case. They want you to stay in Mexico and apply for asylum from there. And that actually is dangerous for people because Mexico is not the safest place either. And contrary to what people expect, a lot of our Nigerians actually come through Mexico seeking asylum. So that does affect Nigerians. What else? So I think that's pretty, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But I think the one that really affects most people is really the backlog. The backlog was already crazy, but guess what's happening? They're firing people from they're firing a lot of people. They fired 20 judges. They fired people that work for Department of Homeland Security. They're firing people that work in embassies, limiting the employees they have there. All of this basically speak to limited capacity of employees to do all those all the immigration work that is required, which means backlogs. So we're really expecting there to be a huge backlog, which we already had. I mean, if you have a case, you're filing for a spouse, it's not going to take anything less than 2 years today from start to finish. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of waiting.
Oh wow. Oh wow. So let's go to the heart of the matter. Is this policy good or bad, first of all, for the African in the US? Is there a positive side to it? And is it good or bad for the African continent itself in the long or short or medium term? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can say that for people who live in the United States, it really isn't good at all because we have people who are afraid to go to work because ICE is stopping people really anywhere, everywhere. I've heard that ICE is actually in lawyers' offices hanging around waiting for people to come in. For that, we've actually implemented a Zoom-only policy We only talk to our clients via Zoom or via phone call, which we've been doing this since COVID anyway. So that wasn't a hardship for us. I don't feel I mean, I don't see how any of these policies really help anybody in the United States, because any immigrant in the United States, especially Nigerians, Africans, because there is a sense of fear. There are even states that have put, like, what do you call it? That they're offering money for people that can call in undocumented people. We have clients saying that their spouses, their abusive spouses, maybe they're married to a U.S. citizen, and they've been in an abusive relationship. Those spouses are threatening them using their status. Some of them are even calling ICE. Neighbors are calling ICE, reporting on people who are here with their families, just working hard to make a living. Now, of course, we have to ask, why is there a mass exodus of people from all these countries? It's because they don't feel that they have opportunities in their own countries, And so, is that going to change if they're deported? I don't know. I think that's for the people in Nigeria to answer, because from what I gather, there's still, the unemployment rate is still really, really high. So if they're deporting these people back to a country where even the people who are there cannot find employment, how does that help? There's a lot of times they're deporting people who have never even lived in the country. There's a separation of families. That's not good for anyone. I believe that America has a right to have borders. America has a right to have laws, and they've always had that. But the problem is the American immigration system is broken. How do you punish people for not obeying the law when your legal system is broken? How can you file for a sibling and it's taking 20 years for that sibling to join you? Or you're filing for your child, it's taking 7 years for that child to join you. And America has laws already. They just need to, if the processes were moving faster, people will be more, they'll be more willing to wait on the line. And for some people, waiting on the line is not an option. And the law allows them to come in here and seek asylum. So by removing that, with the Trump administration saying that is no longer an option, that's not fair, because that law was made for people who are fleeing their countries for many reasons, right? I don't think Nigerians have that same, because a lot of those countries are countries where there's a lot of, what do you call them? There's a lot of the gangs in Latin America. There's a lot of gangs. There's a lot of, instability. People are being killed and the government does not protect them. They flee. I know people who have come here because there was a target on them and their family. So now they have no recourse. And what America doesn't recognize, because if people come to America because it's a land of a land that gives you opportunities, right? Donald Trump is stuck on the fact that America is doing too much. He doesn't seem to understand America is putting this on because America is a leader. Once you take yourself from that position, there's a void. Somebody else will take that leadership position. So what America doesn't understand yet is that these policies that Donald Trump has put in place is really going to hurt Americans as well as other people. I don't see any advantage, not to Nigerians who are being deported, because Nigeria is not in a position to do anything for them, quite frankly. So I think that, because the truth of the matter is, if Nigerians felt that they had opportunities, most people don't want to leave their country. They don't. So I think maybe the conversation to be had in Nigeria is how to bring back Nigerians and provide opportunities for them.
Right. So we're going to be taking some questions very soon, which Sonny and Jumoke are going to coordinate. But let me ask just a couple more questions. What you've said already, the advice that you've given to a lot of the immigrants and so on and so forth, what they should do, how to be careful, Zoom-only interviews and things like that, and not allowing themselves to be picked up just anyhow. But what should the world do? What should Africa, what should Nigeria do, if anything at all? What should the world do? What should groups of people do to bring about some kind of equity or balance, if it is possible, in the society? Or are we just going to fold our hands and see Trump do whatever he likes with his America?
That's a really difficult question, because even here in America, the great America with all the freedom of speech and freedom of everything, they're not doing much. I mean, I know that there's a lot of lawsuits, but that's lawyers. That's lawyers filing lawsuits. I don't really see what, and I think what it is the shock and awe. It's the way everything just came down the pipeline. I think a lot of people are still in shock because nobody really anticipated that we would have a flurry of executive orders, one after the other, destabilizing, destroy. I mean, look at all the things that's going on, but nobody seems to be doing anything. I mean, look at other countries, Canada, what are they doing? Nothing. Australia, nothing. UK, nothing. Everybody's just looking. Doesn't it feel that way to you, that people are just observing? I know all those other countries are looking for, they've realized that America is not an ally for them. So now they're really looking to regroup and begin to try to form relationships with other countries. But I don't see that anything organized is being done to stop this.
Thank you very much. Sonny, if you are there, do you have any questions seeking further explanation? And do we have any hands up wanting to get further clarification and so on and so forth? What sort of policies, Ifeoma, should other countries be thinking of having? I know Canada, Justin Trudeau came up with one or two things. I don't know if there's any other country. I think China had a little response. What kind of policies should other countries be doing? I mean, it's getting a whole day to get your visa to go to the US. So is the US citizen going to, a whole year, I beg your pardon. So are we going to put the US citizens on queue for a year, 2 years before they can come to Nigeria? What do we do to show that this is unfair? I mean, you want to go for a holiday, you're going to apply for your visa 2 years in advance. What does that mean? Who does that?
The thing is this. I think this administration is really seeking to stop legal all forms of immigration from certain countries, right? That's what it's seeking to do, because even legal immigration is being affected. How would you explain the fact that they're reducing their staff in embassies, or that they're even people who have left the country with advanced parole, when they come in here, they're not letting them in. They did it legally. So honestly, this is the way I feel about this. America is going to lose out in the long run because they get a lot from tourism. And if they're not welcoming people because they only want people that look like them, fine, let's find somewhere else to go. That's the truth. Canada, what's the difference between Canada and America? They don't carry guns, they're saner. I know America has, this, God's green earth. We should be able to go where we want to go, as long as we're following the laws of that land. But it seems right now that they're targeting African countries, Caribbean countries, and Latin American countries, and refusing to let them in. You can't fight that. We can't, let's be honest. So the idea is take your money to the people that want to have your money, that take your money to go where you're wanted.
Yeah, Yeah. Is it possible to, or for some Wall Street guys or some financial analysts to do a projection of what the economic harm is going to be to America in the long run? Is it worth an exercise?
I don't think they really care because I'm telling you that I don't think they care because it's not a hidden fact that immigrants actually contribute so much money to the American economy. They pay into a system, into Social Security that they will never benefit from. Their taxes is what is helping to hold up the Social Security, which is supposed to go bankrupt in a few years. But they all know this, but they don't care because the white supremacy agenda is the most important thing for them, even if they're voting against against themselves. I think that's what we've seen from here because we know it wasn't the price of eggs and bread that was causing this. A lot of people are seeing the effects. You know, they're closing down. They're firing people from federal employers. They're removing people from different organizations, just shutting down everything. We know that in the end, this is not about immigration. It's about stopping. It's about white fear. They are afraid that in a few years they're going to become minorities. So I don't think projecting anything is going to make that difference. Is that white privilege that they want to keep for themselves and for their children? That's that's generally the opinion I have about this. Even people who are educated understand this, and I've seen videos where they discount it. Remember when Trump said that he basically, I think he's opened the pathway for white South Africans to seek asylum in America. He said he wants people from Norway. Those are the kind of people they want. It's not. I don't think anybody's confused about what this is all about.
Thank you. Jumoke?
Ms. Odunlami, good evening. Thank you so much for doing this. It's good to see you again.
Same here.
I know you're kind of family, and so thank you for doing this. And I think one of the saddest things for me is that we Africans support this administration blindly because of one agenda, and we are not. We don't even take into consideration the harm that it does to the rest of the black race. That is the most painful thing for me when I hear this blanket support for this administration because of the gay agenda, the fact that they're against transgender and LGBTQ, but the destruction of lives of families that have worked so many years in America. I'm a U.S. citizen and I'm in Nigeria at the moment. And one of the fears that everyone kept telling me is, if you go to Nigeria with your Nigerian passport, you may not be able to come back in. And I had that concern that, you know what, it is true that they may say no, and it's going around. So I really want you to speak to that because there's a lot of information circulating in social media that if you're a dual citizen and you carry the passport of your country of birth, coming in, you'll be denied entry. I took the time to find out from the State Department if that was true, but I would like to hear from you on what that is, what that means to people like us that have dual citizenship and travel on both passports. Thank you.
All right.
And then we have a few hands up, so we'll take questions.
Okay, so I heard this this rumor because it was going around with the Ivorian woman, and I actually did a video on it, and I'll send it to you so that you can send it. I did a video on it. It's on my Instagram, and on YouTube as well for those that are not on social media. And the first thing is, I noticed that Ivory Coast is not really a dual citizen. It doesn't have dual citizenship. I know that there's some exceptions. So the first thing is this: the law, which I'm going to read to you, because I send this to a lot of people. basically says this: U.S. nationals, including U.S. dual nationals, must use a U.S. passport to enter and leave the United States. U.S. dual nationals may also be required by the country of their foreign nationality to use that country's passport to enter and leave that country. Use of the foreign passport to travel to or from a country other than the United States is not inconsistent with United States law. And I'm going to forward this to you when I finish to WhatsApp. So this is how it works, and this is how it has always worked. When you're living in the United States, you go with the American passport and the passport of the country, your destination, right? America, the airline has to check to make sure that you are allowed to get into that country. Otherwise, they get fined, right? So they're going to make sure that you have a passport or visa that allows you to enter the country, say Nigeria, right? Your US passport is what you use to, you're using that to leave the country. When you get to Nigeria, you show the customs your Nigerian passport or your visa, they let you in. When you're coming back from Nigeria wants to also see that you have a valid Nigerian passport or visa, and they let you out. But you must also have a valid American passport, because that's what you're going to show CBP, Custom Border Patrol, and that's how they're going to let you in. So I said that the reason why that video about the woman from Ivory Coast is fear-mongering is nobody is going to take your American passport from you at the airport, because to take somebody's passport is to denaturalize them. That can only be done in federal court. That is a very rarely done process. Denaturalization costs the state of the country a lot of money. It's not done at the airport. The only way they can take your passport at the airport if it's counterfeit, right? And at that point, you have bigger problems than trying to enter America. So I saw a video today about some guy also saying the same thing. He was at the passport. I'm like, where are you from? Tell us where you're from. He doesn't give any information. There's a lot of fear mongering, and I think people are getting they're taking advantage of the fact that everybody is just confused about all the differences, all the things that's going on. But I can tell you that the consensus between me and my other attorneys in all the attorney group is that this is just fear mongering. I think you're muted.
We're going to start taking questions, but I have one more before we go. And this is about children of illegal immigrants, because there's also some states now that will not allow them to register their children in school, that the parents have to prove their legal status before the kids, even though these are children that are born in the United States. So I don't know how accurate that is, that there are some Midwestern states that now demand the legal status of the parents before the kids are registered in school. And if the parents do not have legal status, then the kids cannot be registered.
Okay, what I have heard is that some states, some red states are requiring, they want to know the citizenship, or even some hospitals, right? Especially in Texas, they say it's for administrative purposes, right? But I haven't heard that anybody in fact, it's not possible that any child that's born in America, whether your parents are documented or not, cannot go to school. That's not possible, because as of today, the birthright citizenship executive order has been put on hold. And the reason why is because you cannot terminate birthright citizenship by executive order. It has to be done by a majority of Congress, right? And also, I think it has to be ratified by the majority of the state. So that's not possible. So executive order cannot be terminated by birthright citizenship cannot be terminated by executive order. So there's no way any child who's born in America is not a U.S. citizen today. So that's not true. Now, are they requiring parents to give them that information? Yes, that's true. But they're all saying it's for administrative purposes. But the truth of the matter is they're just using it they're collecting data for ICE. That's what it is.
Thank you so much. We're going to start taking questions, but Pastor Tony is in the room. Pastor Tony, did you have any questions before we take the hands off? Okay. But let me
No,
go ahead and
I'm good. I don't have any question. Go ahead.
go ahead. So the way, Ifeoma, the way we usually do this is we try to take maybe 2 or 3 questions together, because they're kind of related, and then we'll take the next few. We have 6 hands up now. So I'm going to ask you guys, please, when I call you up, please keep it very brief so that we can take as many questions as possible. Matt, please go ahead and ask your question. Matt?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks, Ifeoma, for the presentation so far. So basically, mine is about the retaliatory measures in terms of the if America is restricting Nigerian entry into the U.S., what should Nigeria do? So I believe that what we should not, we should look at what we are going to gain or what we are going to lose, not just a knee-jerk reaction. So if America is restricting Nigerians from coming into America, if we retaliate, what do we gain or what do we lose? For instance, if we have more people coming into more Americans coming into Nigeria, is there something to gain? Or if we have less Americans coming into Nigeria, is there something to gain? That is what we should look at rather
You have
than
10 seconds to round up your
yeah,
question, please. 10 seconds.
rather than just reacting because emotionally. So it's rather more like a comment. I don't know if you can you see it the same way that I do, but that is the way we should look at it. Like in December, we had December, and they reeled out some of the gains that Nigeria achieved from that. So I think we should be looking at the value that we gain or lose rather than just the emotion.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want me to answer or wait for the next question? You want me to answer? Okay, go ahead.
The second question, and then you can take this together.
Okay.
Good evening, Ifeoma, and well done for the work that you do. Just a quick, I don't know if it's a question or comment. I'm a bit wary because some of the things you said and some of the things, one reads in the news and all of that, we already know how Trump is and all of that. But my understanding is that he's chasing after the immigrants. No, so for that rule, or I don't know, that rule of law where he's trying to cancel automatic citizenship. What my understanding is that he's doing that for those whose parents are no longer and don't reside in America in the first place, and therefore, if they have children, their children are not automatically Americans. Donald Trump has told everybody that he wants to make America great again, and part of that making it great is the economy to be better. And if you have people who are illegal immigrants, or just coming in through asylum, they have children, then they have automatic citizenship. For me, there is a question mark. Why are we expecting that to be so? Considering he has told us that he wants the country to be great economically and many other things, and maybe he does have a supremacist agenda. I don't know, and I think many of us don't know. And many of the things that the way we come to our conclusions about Trump, Democrats, and all is all skewed skewed towards politics. Are they Democrats? Are they Republicans? So that's my big fear, that there's some things now that we've heard about. Even this dual nationalism, only for us to hear the real truth. So I'm a bit wary about how much is being done and the reasoning behind it, because it's so much news that we hear in the BBC and everywhere else, or you hear from the CNN, and they're opposing, begin to wonder. So I just wondered if, somehow you guys take that on board, the law firms and all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ifeoma, can you take those 2 questions?
Okay, so let me ask answer Matt about retaliatory measures. I agree with you that I don't believe that Nigeria should retaliate because Nigeria is in a different position than the United States. I think Nigeria should look to what benefits Nigeria. And I'm going to tell you that since during COVID, as a result of TikTok, Nigerian culture got a lot of popularity in terms of our art, our culture, our food. I mean, my son tells me to be Nigerian is a flex, you know. They because of social media, they got to learn a little more about what we do, how we are. We got away from that 419 reputation as if that's all we were. Right now, Nigeria is benefiting from this better reputation. People want to come to Nigeria, aka Dirty December. That was, people are still planning to come. So why would Nigeria, refuse to let people who come in with whatever legal immigration laws that Nigeria tells them to abide by. They can come in, they should enjoy what Nigeria has to offer, and Nigeria should charge them for it. They're coming to spend money, and a lot of people are profiting. That's the thing about the opportunities that are now available to Nigerians. I have heard of people in America ordering clothes from Nigerian tailors for their children's what do you call it? What they call that thing that they do for graduation. I'm losing my train of thought on this. Anyway,
Prom.
but the prom, yes, people are ordering prom outfits from Nigeria. That benefits Nigerians because that's a way to make money. We even have people who are employed from Nigeria, working in the United States remotely. So I am totally with you, Matt, that retaliation is not what we should be looking at. We should be looking at just making sure that there's opportunities for Nigerians to get a better life from Nigeria, even if it means letting Americans in. So what? Half of Americans don't agree with Trump, so why are we punishing those that are not, don't align with his goals and values? Now, with regards to birthright citizenship, and let me correct this: the executive order was targeted to people who are in the United States and outside the United States. So basically, if you come into this is how it works. If you have a child, this is the Trump agenda. If you have a child in the United States and you're not in legal immigrant status, which is green card holder or U.S. citizen, at least one parent should be a green card holder or U.S. citizen. That child cannot attain citizenship in America. So if you come here on a student visa and you have a child, your child will not be a U.S. citizen. If you come here on a work visa, you have a child, your child will not be a U.S. citizen. If you have no legal status, that's what the termination of birthright citizenship would mean. However, like I said, there's been a stay, right? So that executive order is not functional, and this case will go to the Supreme Court. So for right now, if you have your child today, your child is a U.S. citizen until further notice. I believe that the Constitution has spoken, the law has spoken with regards to birthright citizenship. No president can terminate birthright citizenship through executive order. That's not within their power.
Thank you. So I'll take the next set of two questions. Professor Grange, please go ahead, Ma, with your question, and then I'll take Joel.
Thank you so much for enlightening us about what is going on in America, because a lot of people have become very fearful of actually showing their faces outside of their homes, because, there's been a backlash on neighbors not knowing exactly, they are so uninformed, and so they take it out of the of the blacks and browns. My question is the fact that this whole thing goes beyond even discrimination. And we have seen that Donald Trump is actually tackling other global issues in a way that is not conducive to their preservation of their supremacy. How will this work out in the end? Is it going to so affect him that perhaps the discrimination affair can be laid low? That's number one. The second thing is those blacks with American citizenship, how are they being treated in other European countries? Do you think that the fact that they are being maligned and discriminated against in the US will make them not so welcomed in other European countries? Because there's this problem that has gone beyond even citizenship in America, for those who are staying in America. Well, what is happening to them when they are no longer, they are traveling all over the place? Before, having an American passport gave us the freedom to go into other countries without any fear or favor. And so what do you think might happen in the future because of this terrible assault on the fact that we don't belong to them? Thank you. So there's this xenophobia, is the xenophobia going to be carried to other countries? I think that's the question I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to have Joel, and then you can take those two, and then we'll take the last set of two, Yemisi and Mr. Kinowo. Please go ahead, Joel.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, Ifeoma. Okay, my question is this. How do you think this policy will affect students who are there and need to come back to renew their student visas? Thank you.
All right. So, great questions. So, with regards to Professor Grange's questions on xenophobia, I don't know, honestly. I don't really know that there's a connection. I think some countries are getting emboldened to. I think this is a problem with having a president like President Trump. Countries look towards America for leadership. So when America tells you that human rights are no longer a priority for them by signing out of all those organizations that promote human rights, other countries are listening, right? And so it's possible that there will be xenophobia, but I think that just like during Trump 1.0, there was a lot of this a lot of leaders, like I think the Italian and I don't remember other countries that became more prominent, because they aligned with President Trump's agenda. That's likely to happen, but like I don't know that there's a way to stop xenophobia. It's been there, it's always going to be there. I think when you want to travel, do your due diligence. And I always believe that go where you are welcome. I'm never going to go to Russia. I'm never going to go to North Korea. There are certain countries that are too civilized to show any xenophobia, like the UK. Yeah, there might be racism there, but they are going to be who they were before, and they're just going to do what they need to do. I think that if you want to travel wherever you're going to travel, you expect certain behavior and just deal with it. You cannot change people. That's the truth. And unfortunately, leadership in America is really causing a lot of countries to feel that they can indulge in their own, in their own xenophobic tendencies. There's really nothing we can do about it. Go where you're appreciated. I guess that's my mantra, at least for the next 4 years.
Thank you.
And then with regards to Joel actually asked a great question with regards to F1 students. We're telling F1 students not to travel, because as long as you're here, even if your visa is expired, your stay here is really for duration of stay. So you're legal. You only need a visa when you leave the country, because coming back, you have to come in with a visa. So as long as you're here in the United States, you're in legal status. Now, for some people that need to travel, we tell them to go to Mexico or go to Canada. Do not go to Nigeria, because you can get your F1 visa from Mexico or from Canada. I hope that answers the question, Joel.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 more questions. So I'm going to take Auntie Yemisi, and then I'll take Mr. Peter Akinawu, and then Mr. Lou Victor. I think that would be the last 3 questions that we'll take before we close. Thank you. So Auntie Yemisi, please go ahead. We've asked you to unmute. 1 second. Are you able to unmute now?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. It's always very depressing talking about the state of the Black race still running helter-skelter in other parts of the world, when we are really truly the cradle of mankind, should be leading. But it is what it is, and we have to deal with our current realities. And we need to do a lot more to raise our understanding of our position in world history, understanding our history, understanding the pride we should have, and the courage, and summon the courage to change our continent and the story of our continent from what it is to where it should be. But my quick questions are for you, and thank you so much, my dear, for coming to enlighten us about what's going on. I just want to find out whether those who voted for Trump, Blacks for Trump, are they regretting their choice? I mean, are they saying it out and letting people know that, no, this is not what they wanted? And does Trump care? Probably not, but it would be good to know whether that kind of outrage is registering with him, because he has a humongous ego, and if he gets enough of the outcry and backlash, and remember what happened in his first term when everybody was out, protesting women and all of that. Are you getting a feeling that that's happening or is likely to happen? And is there a visible movement to say, look, it's happening now, we didn't want to have this, but in the midterms, we're going to change the narrative, because the situation is complicated by the fact that he has some zombie drug that he has given the Republicans in Parliament, Senate and representative, who don't seem they seem to have lost their spine somewhere along the way. So are Democrats able to use this momentum, if there is a momentum, to say, no, this is not what we want, from farmers, from other people who are outraged by this, torrent of executive orders, so that something changes in 2 years? And are Blacks actively organizing to patronize African goods? You mentioned a little bit about the Dirty December and all that, but is it becoming a movement? Is it being organized and structured so that there are online platforms for Africans in the diaspora, particularly Nigerians, because these are the ones we care about. I mean, we care for Africans, but you have to look after your own. Is the community looking at businesses in Nigeria, how to invest in Nigeria, in sovereign bonds and treasury bills and all the financial instruments that can begin to transform the trajectory here. And also looking at some of the policies that this present government in Nigeria is putting in place and having some vocal engagement with it. That's how the Jews manage their own the Israeli questions. In America, they're very organized. They engage the American government. So, do we have that kind of organization that's engaging the American government, engaging the Nigerian representatives in America, to make sure that some of these policies are fine-tuned and geared towards creating the African continent that will limit the migration issue and the refugee issue, so that only those who really, want to be there, they're not forced because of economic or other humanitarian reasons to want to be in that part of the world. Those are my quick questions. Let me thank you once again for the work you're doing, the love you are showing our fellow brothers and sisters there. God bless you. You will be rewarded abundantly. And please come home. Think of coming home as well. We want to have you here. We want our brains back. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
ma'am, for
you.
the questions.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Akinawu.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Joel already asked one of my questions, but I will proceed with the other questions. So my first question is to STEM student, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We have a lot of Nigerian students that once they go to the US, they study, some of them study engineering, some of them study medicine, and they are doing fine there, become doctors, good doctors, nurses, and engineers, and also guys in tech industry. So my first question is it currently advisable for any intending STEM student to travel to the US for study? Is it currently advisable? And also, what advice would you give to any students intending to come to the US to study? Like, what advice would you give anybody intending to come here, maybe for masters, undergraduate, or PhD? And also, lastly, is this policy going to affect education generally in the US?
For international students, you mean? Okay, thank you. Ifeoma, do you want to take those questions, and then we'll take the last one from, or we'll take the last two. These are definitely the last two. Please take those two, and then we'll take Pastor Olu Victor and Adama F, and that'll be the last two. Go ahead, please. Before we take two questions, yeah.
The first question, Ms. Ransom Kuti says, is there the outrage is registering? Is it making a difference? No. The Black people that voted for Trump, are they regretting it? I have not heard that. They've been very quiet on social media, but we do know that Latinos that voted for him are regretting it, specifically because some of the policies that were useful to them, like the Biden's humanitarian parole, TPS, has been revoked. So there's a direct effect to them, and they're regretting it. Now, Arab Americans are very much regretting it because of his statement on what he's going to do to Gaza. So the people who are being vocal about their regrets are the people who are registering negative effects from all the things that Trump is doing. But with regards to momentum, I haven't really seen any any real momentum. I've seen people who have boycotted certain stores like Target because they have revoked their DEI policies and all that. But there's nothing organized. And then you mentioned is there a way as like our Jewish brothers and sisters are able to get work done because they're organized, but we don't have the economic power. That's the problem. Money talks. So when we don't have the economic power to make to demand changes, there are no changes. That's just my my opinion. Mr. Akinawa, so is it advisable for STEM students to apply to go to the US? Why not? Unfortunately, education in Nigeria is not as, it's not the way it used to be before. And so you definitely have a lot to gain from getting, especially in STEM, where we have in America, maybe other countries too, not just America, you have access to, all the technologies, all the new, all the AI and all those new things that are being put, that are now present. So I don't see any reason why people should definitely apply to go to school if they find somewhere where a course that they want to study is going to be offered to them, and that opportunity is better than the one they would have in Nigeria. Now, I'm not going to tell a law student to come to Nigeria because really, you practice law in Nigeria, you can't really, practice it you practice law in America. It doesn't translate to Nigerian law, so there's no benefit to you coming to America to study law. Now, for those who are intending to come to America to study, I always tell them that F1 application is not automatic. You have to first of all get an admission from a school. You have to show that you can afford to pay for the school. So you have to have economic power. You have to give them evidence of that. And then the most important thing is you have to show them that you intend to return, because your F1 will be denied if you're not making it clear to them that you're going to study and then you're going to come back to use whatever you have learned to help your country. All right. And even then, it could still deny you the F1. So honestly, there are many other. America is going through a time where they're excluding people. I've always told people there are other countries that have the same benefits and are just not loud-mouthed as America. You can get the same experience you're looking for in other countries if you don't feel that Nigeria has that opportunity for you. So look at other countries, because this is what I tell people, especially those who are doing masters, PhD and all that, there's a way to get a green card in America called National Interest Waiver, right? National Interest Waiver requires you to show that you're bringing something to America that will be useful to America. So a lot of people in STEM, that's why you see a lot of people from China, India, being able to come into the United States with a green card because they file on the National Interest Waiver. STEM is a big thing for National Interest Waiver. You get a master's, you get a PhD, you can have a proposed agenda, show America that whatever it is that you're offering will benefit them, and you don't need an employer to file for you. You can self-petition for a green card on your own. The requirements for a National Interest Waiver, but that's something that I encourage people to look into. There are ways to get what you need. You can write articles, you can join organizations. America wants to see that you have something to offer them and that you are somebody who has been applauded in your profession.
Thank you so much. We'll take the last two hands that are up. We'll take Pastor Olu Victor, and then we'll take Adama F. Please go ahead, sir, with your question.
Thank you so very much. I really want to appreciate your efforts at educating us this evening. But my concern is more about the treatment that most embassies, especially the United States Embassy in Nigeria, meets out to Nigerians here in Nigeria. The way they treat people at the embassy and their attitude towards applicants is really, really not very, very pleasant. The last time I was at the embassy, I saw somebody off to the embassy to, for an interview. The condition at which those people were, attended to is really, really appalling. And I really want somebody to take this up with them. Maybe, I don't know what our own government is doing about that. Two, I want to also mention about the cost of procuring visa in Nigeria. I tried checking for other countries and I discovered that Nigerians' own is perhaps the most expensive around this area. Why is it so? Then most time the conditions of issuing the visa, they will say it's not non-refundable, non-negotiable, and non-contestable. And you discover that when the consular officers were interviewing these people, they don't even give them the benefit, especially American embassy. They don't give them the benefit to explain themselves. They just, the moment they want to give them the document or anything, they just bring that their white paper and say, you are denied. Next person, within 3 minutes, less than 2 minutes, they've attended to about 2 or 3 people. They don't even give the people the benefit of explaining why do you want to go to America or why do you want this visa. People as old as 70 years, 60 years, or people that want to attend programs or conferences or wedding and programs like that. They don't even care where you are working or the documentation that you've put together. What they are just interested in is getting your money and telling you if you are not satisfied, apply again and pay more money. Also, is there anything our government can or the diplomatic department can do to ask them to be more dignifying in the way they treat Nigerians? The last question here is that the way they have made an appointment, to get an appointment, to book an appointment for visa interview in Nigeria, they make it so hectic that there's been a lot of people have created rings around it, that there's a lot of, before you can get an appointment date, you have to pay up to 300,000, 500,000 naira to get an appointment date. They block all the appointments till 2 years' time. So I don't understand why all these things is like this. Can you please throw more light? And is there anything that our own government can do about this in order to make traveling easy for their own people? Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take the last hand. Adama F, please go ahead with your question.
Okay, it wasn't allowing me to unmute.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ifeoma. That's quite enlightening. And thank you, Ms. Jumoke. There's a question, I don't know if it's a question, someone wrote a comment earlier on here, said, and a lot of Nigerians believe this is the Messiah because of the anti-gay agenda. I learned a lot of Nigerians wanted Trump to win, even those who live here in Nigeria, which I find very interesting, including one of the people making a comment on the. So I think even Ms. Jumoke started our conversation, our question up with that, that what do you think about that? Or because a lot of people think, oh, is the Messiah? Well, those who claim to be maybe pastoral will be able to answer this better. Because I really want to understand that, because how many gay people do they have? And people, they can't ever change that. They know that everywhere in the world, either in the US, in the UK or Europe, God is the only one that can change that. So I don't know why that should be a criteria for anyone to want someone to win, when what the person is doing is affecting millions of people, millions of families from different countries, African, Latinos, even some Asian countries. So I just wanted someone to make a comment on that. And the second thing is, I read something from maybe online newspaper this morning about an 11-year-old that committed suicide because the classmates said they were going to report her family to, I don't know, maybe ICE or to the immigration because they're going to deport her parents or so. I don't know. Is there on the news somewhere? I think she's in Texas. Yes, Dallas, Texas. The girl was being buried. 11-year-old committed suicide because she believed her parents were going to be taken away, or she and her family were going to be deported, because people don't know the ripple effect of this thing and the repercussion this is causing a lot. We don't even know some other news happening everywhere, apart from the fair, you know. And then the other thing is it possible to have maybe Jumoke's details or Mr. Sonny, because at times you want to do some follow-up or you want to discuss with someone, but there's no one to really reach. And I've been part of this platform now for like 4 years or 3 years or since it started. I don't want to be calling Pastor Ito. I want to be able to reach other people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ifeoma, you can answer those questions. And if I may just address the inquiry about our contact information. We do post it every week. It's on the flyer as well. Email contact on our website. You also have our email address and a phone number also that you can use to reach us. But I'll go ahead and my contact information, and I believe Pastor Lu Victor's contact information is also on the website. My apologies. We are not taking any more questions. We took the last 2 hands that were up because we do have to round up. This is a very important topic and we could go on and on. So, but we have to also be very conscious of Mrs. Odunlami's time. She graciously gave us an hour and a half of her workday, the middle of her workday. So we do have to close. Thank you so much, Ms. Odunlami. If you could answer those last 2 questions and then and then also your closing remark. Thank you.
So, Pastor Victor, you complain about the way they treat applicants at the embassy, and that is correct. I've heard a lot of horror stories, people going there with all these documents that they're required to submit, and the officer doesn't even look at it and they deny. Unfortunately, there's not much that we can do about that. But what I tell people is that when you go for this interview, it's important to understand what visa type you're applying for. If you're applying for B1, B2, which is a tourist visa, it's not, first of all, lying or saying or not giving information definitely does not help. So if you're applying for B1, B2, which is a tourist visa, and say you're going to visit your child, it's not helpful to say, I'm going to help my child who just had a baby, because that's considered unauthorized employment. So that will get you denied because you said that. America does not allow you to come into work. And if there's any work that you're doing that somebody else can be paid for, even if it's for a family member, that's considered unauthorized employment. Because I've had people say, oh, my child just had a baby and I want to go help. They will deny that visa. It's important to show that you have ties to your country. A B1, B2 is a single intent visa. They're looking to see that you're going to go and come back. Unfortunately, certain countries have a high level of non-return to their country. Nigeria is one of them. And so that's the reason they give our people a hard time at the embassies. It's important to show that you have family member in Nigeria, you have parents in Nigeria, you have a job in Nigeria, you have properties. You want to show that there's no reason for you to stay in America and come and not come back. You also want to be prepared prepared to answer questions about what you intend to do, how long you intend to stay. And please, if you say you're going to be there for 3 weeks, don't go and stay for 6 months, because they're looking at these are the things that they look at, which when you come back to renew, they deny you. Now, there's some officers from hell that will not even give Jesus a visa. So there's nothing we can do about those people. But you do your best in terms of giving them the information that they need to, which is you have strong ties to your country. You're only intending to visit for a short period of time, and you're going to come back. Now, I also recommend that people, because I've from the information I've heard, Lagos is more horrible when it comes to granting visas than Abuja. That's not a scientific poll, but it seems that more people get denied in Lagos because I guess the volume of the people that go for the interview, so they have less time to look at anybody's documents. And if you're looking for them to treat you better, it's the government. You know, our government doesn't demand that our people be treated better. So, yeah. So, Mr. Adama F, with regards to the 11-year-old child that committed suicide, I heard that too, and it's so sad because there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of turmoil within the immigrant community. If I've seen, you know, even us as attorneys, we're getting a lot of threats. You know, America is gone crazy, and it's the way that is a rhetoric that's out there. They're telling people that if you came here and you're illegal, you're a criminal, and that's not true. Violating immigration laws is not a crime. It's a civil infraction. It's like a traffic ticket. But the information that Trump has successfully put out there is if you're here illegally, you are a criminal, and anything that can be done to get you out should be done. I don't really, I can't tell you that we have our answers right now because we're only 1 month into this administration, but I really feel that this is just a shock and awe. They're starting strong and they're doing too much, but they cannot sustain it for 4 years because it's logistically impossible. So I think we should just, I know that a lot of people are anxious, a lot of people are worried, but I really feel that we should adopt the attitude of this too shall pass. For this president, it's all about perception. He wants people to perceive him a certain way, perceive him as. Now he's doing, you know, this is a funny thing. A lot of this president, somebody put a remark out there that Clinton, Obama, all presidents deported illegal immigrants. What's the difference with DJT? So let me answer that. The difference is that people are being deported in an inhumane manner. Obama deported people. Clinton deported people. Yes, deportation of people who are here undocumented is the law. But the law also is supposed to do it with dignity to the person because people have human rights. So when you ask what is the difference, I cannot believe that must be a joke because I cannot believe that's a valid legal question. You do not see the difference in the way people are being deported or people are being treated as opposed to the way Obama, Clinton, and Bush treated people. So just to round up, I just want to say, as an immigration lawyer that assists a lot of Nigerians, I just need to say this because I need for you guys to tell people this. The big problem we have with our Nigerian clients, that all immigration lawyers have with Nigerian clients, is our legal documents. USCIS does not believe our legal documents are real. And I personally, I have found that with our divorce decrees, majority of them are fake. I have a lawyer in Nigeria that I ask my clients to go authenticate their divorce decree before we file papers because we're not going to file papers with fake documents. And I can tell you that in the past 3 years that we've given her this document, it's only one. And I've given her 100, only one that has come out to be a real divorce decree. USCIS denied that one anyway, just because they deny everything across the board that has to do with Nigerian divorce decrees. They don't even bother to check. Even our embassy in New York has no credibility anymore because some of the things that they've authenticated to be real has been found to be fake. Now, a lot of people don't realize certain things. If you're married through traditional customary law, you don't need a divorce decree. USCIS, Department of State, will accord that document or that status, whatever Nigeria, it has to give reciprocity. So if you get married through cultural traditional marriage, and all that is required is to return down bride price, and then you're divorced, America will accept that. But a lot of people don't realize that because somebody tells them, oh, they won't recognize that, so you have to go and get a divorce decree. So they go and get a fake divorce decree, and that becomes a problem for their case. So if there's anything I've heard from all of you, and I thank you for all the great questions, but I need for people to let our Nigerian people know that please stop submitting fake divorce decree. There are red flags when they see those. I can spot those red flags myself. How much more, USCIS and DOS that see all these documents. And so I just want to thank you guys for coming and inviting me, because this has been really a great community to discuss what is going on in America with regards to immigration. And I feel confident that me and my fellow attorneys are more than qualified and are more than ready and capable to meet this challenge. And I think that this is what lawyers are called to do. So in times of adversity, people rise up, and I feel that what is happening may actually give us Nigerians, even in Nigeria, we might begin to rethink some of the things that we're doing, begin to look for opportunities, and begin to rely less on America. So thank you guys, and God bless.
Thank you so very much for this very insightful conversation. And I'm hoping it has dispelled a lot of the myth and misinformation out there. And to your point, this is really a clarion call or a wake-up call for us to begin to rebuild or to build where we are, because we do have the resources, we have the brain power, we have the capacity, we have the capability, and it goes on and on. And so America's voted for Trump because of what he represents. Overwhelmingly, they voted for him because they want to make America great again. So we have to pick the leaders that represent our interests, the ones that will build that country that is great for us. And we have to rally round ourselves. And to Auntie Yemisi's point about this is about the Black race. This is about us rising to create that continent, that great continent that works for us. Because like you said, if Nigeria was great, or if we had the right kind of conducive environment, let me put it that way, immigration will not be, we won't be running all over, there won't be Japa syndrome. In the 80s, a lot of people moved back home after school. Nobody wanted to stay in America. It was just a few people that stayed behind. So it is a wake-up call for us to begin to rebuild. And again, we can't, like you said, we can't fault America for wanting to make America great again. We need to start making Nigeria great again, Ghana great again, Kenya great again, Sierra Leone great again, by coming up with those policies that protect us as well. I'm not saying the ones that work against other countries, but the ones that work for us. And I think your point, our vote, there are consequences to our decision. Our vote has consequences. And it could be a matter of life or death. It could be destruction of families, destruction of cultures and things like that. So those are some of the key points that I got from this conversation. Our vote has consequences, and we need to think beyond just ourselves, how it impacts us personally. We have to look at the global community and look at how it's going to affect those around us. You said this someone, I don't know if it's true, they asked that question about a young lady, a young girl that committed suicide because her parents were threatened deportation. And there are going to be many stories like that we may not be able to verify. There are going to be a lot of fear, people that have never gone back home, that have never lived in their country of birth because they migrated at very young age and now they are forced to go back. So there are so many things happening, but this is about us in Africa coming together to begin to rebuild as best as we can. We were there and we can get better. And so thank you all for joining us again this evening. And for those of you that asked about the Africa Leadership Group, NLS, we meet here every Thursday, same time, just a different topic. And we engage in conversations that inform us so that we're making informed decisions. We're not also part of the rumor peddlers or fearmongers. So please join us every Thursday, 5 p.m., same Zoom link. It's just a different topic. And if you want to engage, I put my contact in the chat room. And then we also have our website. Pastor Lou is going to put his number there as well. We have a number on the website. I don't have it right now. So please go ahead and put that information. Our social media handles are on the flyers. Maybe we can post that again. but please feel free to join us. We'll be posting the link if you come next week, Thursday, of how you can engage. We have a lot of initiatives here at ALG. Pastor Olu has posted his contact information there. We have the youth group that we're building, the next generation of leaders. We have School of Leadership and Governance, which again, Citizens Responsibility course is our flagship program where we really want to inform and engage leaders, responsible, ethical, accountable leadership for the next generation, even this generation. We also have the Ito Olajide Ighodalo Mentorship Program, again, promoting ethical and accountable leaders. That's ongoing. We're just in our second cohort now. So there's so many things. Then we have the Fan Feed a Neighbor, Feed a Nation initiative that we used to enter the, as part of our community development initiative, is a tool that we go into communities and also help address some of the food insecurities and use it as an opportunity to engage them. So we're very engaged. We're doing a lot here, and we hope to bring everyone on board. Auntie Yemisi and I were talking earlier on about the need to hold our leaders accountable. So we're also part of a coalition of participatory governance. So there's so much that we're doing here, but we know that we can't do this on our own. We need all hands on deck. So we invite you to please come alongside us and do this great work. Thank you again, Ms. Odunlami, for the great work that you're doing for the community and for those, for being a voice for those that cannot help themselves. And to everyone, we have that responsibility to look out for each other. Again, thank you on behalf of Pastor. Pastor had to step away for another appointment. Pastor Itwa, who is the president of the Africa Leadership Group, also Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. And we're glad you could be here. So see you again next week, Thursday. Please share the information with your contact. The more people know, the better off we are together. Again, thank you and have a very good evening. God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay. Everyone is unmuted. We usually do this at the end of this session.